the statistics say that I'm supposed to be in jail or dead or what have you. But I think not just as a Black man, but as a human, having the mom that I have, it changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm.
Her being able to just see and speak affirmations into me, she programmed my
Mm.
mind. I think that's the very thing that saved me from literally dying from alcoholism, is that those affirmations were threaded into my subconscious. Like, you can survive, you can do this, you're meant for more.
You're listening to Undimmed, a podcast about living a clear life without dimmers. I'm Cecily Mack. In today's episode, you'll meet Kamelle Mills. He takes us on his deeply personal and at times dark journey to his own version of a clear life. We hear his story starting in a trailer park in Huntsville, Texas, through his first sip of alcohol in college, to a seemingly fabulous life, though he often felt as if he was literally drowning throughout. After choosing to embrace light over darkness and face his demons head on, today he is a wildly popular fitness instructor, performer, and confidence coach, spreading a type of vibrant joy which he calls living in Fuchsia.
And with this company, I started a campaign called Living in Fuchsia. I went through hell, and after going through hell, I came out with rose-colored glasses, and that's what Living in Fuchsia is all about. I'm showing people through art and wellness how not to harp on the bullshit of life, but to see life through the lens of inspiration. I'm calling my lens Fuchsia. The fullest manifestation of all this magic comes to full fruition tonight.
Well, welcome, Kamelle. It is such a privilege and joy to have this time with you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you so much for having me, but also creating this space that is so necessary. And I feel, vital for where we're going as a collective, as people, especially people trying to grow and change and evolve. So thank you so much.
How old were you when you realized that you were a performer? And what was that feeling, that thread that carried you through to today?
So I come from what people might consider poverty. I am only a few generations away from slavery, quite literally and geographically. My great great grandma lived probably in the same house that was for indentured servants and slaves in the backwoods of Texas. And I say that to say, I think my mom always could see that there was, quote unquote, a performer in me, or that I was somehow different than most people, different in a lot of ways, including being gay in the South, but also that I had a natural confidence. But I could tell myself that I was very different than a lot of people around me. And to this day, I question whether I elected to step onto certain stages or if it was a defense mechanism to be my costume, my saving grace. So people won't make fun of me if I can entertain or if I can inspire. But I remember specifically when the first time I got in front of my family in the trailer park in Huntsville, Texas, we were watching What's Love Got to Do with It? And Angela Bassett was doing her little jive, and she was every now and then. And so I think the VHS skipped and the tape stopped playing, and I got in front of the TV and I did what Angela was doing. And I remember how it made my cousins, my aunties, my mom and them feel. This thing that I was doing was providing some type of service of inspiration, of entertainment. And to this day, I truly remember also it not being about me, but about their inspiration and their entertainment, if that makes sense.
Wow. So I have to ask, was this like a way for you as a child to feel real, like to feel more you, or was it a way to kind of put on something and have an early version of an escape from the real?
As I speak about this, images are passing before me, but they say that your imagination is limited to your experience. And my mom had ways of putting me in places where I could expand my imagination. Books, we'd take the trolley to the library. And I remember like all these stories, and I think I drew from that, like an imagination, ability to not just be myself. And yeah, I think it was a bit of not necessarily escapism, but a way to cloak myself in something that was not my reality in
Mm,
order to survive, really.
yeah. And it's amazing. I just want to acknowledge your mom for being that attuned to you as a kid and not trying to control or shove that down, but rather bring you into environments that would allow you to explore it.
Honestly, to this day, and I wish I could explain this to people about the kind of guidance I had as a black man in America, having my mom. I mean, my mom used to tell me funny things in her Southern way, like, you ain't better than anybody, but ain't nobody better than you.
Mm,
Like keeping
mm,
me humble, but also letting me know that
awesome.
there ain't no competition. So don't even look at anybody else. Focus on, being the best version of yourself. I was very introverted as a child. All those books and movies and things that I saw, I was acting them out by myself. My cousins were like, "What is wrong with this kid?" But I remember my mom, like, really, she didn't understand some of it, but she was really pushing it because she had hopes of me being something that she had never seen before.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense given where you came from, that she had this courage and imagination and love for you that let you grow that way.
Yeah, I did get into this talent show, and I think it's the first time I learned how to stand up for myself. And I'm not sure why I didn't get in, but they didn't allow me to play. There weren't a lot of black kids in the show, but my
Mm,
mom went to the school. She was like, "He needs another chance." And from her doing that, seeing the example of that, along with the affirmations, gave me sort of subconsciously and consciously tools to be a fighter.
that's beautiful. And what a blessing, really, because our moms can instill all kinds of things in us. And sometimes they're super challenging and sometimes they're enormous gifts. And that you honor her, not only the kid memories, but it sounds like in how you live your life today. That's amazing. I want to kind of follow the thread a little bit. So you were a kid who had a lot of obviously, loving encouragement and support in exploring your performer side. And then you had a football chapter and you had a challenging high school and college experience. Tell us about that part of your journey.
I think football is so vital in my story. I want to send you a picture of me in football because you're gonna be like, who is that?
Fantastic.
I know a lot of people in my life talk about, careers they have to follow because they're parents. That if your dad was a banker, then you ended up banking. I feel like that almost for football because my mom, if the fates had changed one thing or two, my mom would be a lead football coach in the NFL. She could be. She definitely is so grounded and calm. But when it comes to football, my mom turns into like an animal. She's screaming. To this day, I get scared if I go home and there's a football game on. My mom's in the other room. I'm still not used to her reaction. I say that to say, all I've ever known is please my mom. Like quite literally, when I was little, because I've seen how many sacrifices she made, not just for me and my siblings and my father, but for our entire family. I always felt I needed to make sure I never disappointed my mother. We all have that.
Yeah,
We don't
for
want to disappoint
sure.
our family. She
Sure.
loved football. I have to play football. I have to be good at football.
Mm,
It was probably the first arena where I learned how to perform. I played a better character on the football field than I probably did on stage because I had to pretend to be a straight
wow. You had to
man.
fill an expected identity.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, pain.
I remember having to feel the yucky disassociative feeling of lying about who I was. So girls were cute in football and I love this, I love that, or I can't wait to kick so and so's butt, but I'm like, I want to be inside on
Mm,
AOL Messenger. I want to
mm.
go to rehearsal. I want to take dance class and I want to learn an instrument. But yeah, football definitely was when I learned one how to lie about my identity to my family, then to the people that I had to see all the time, those boys.
Was that around the time when you started experimenting with alcohol?
You know what? That's so funny. I did not touch alcohol in high school. I think the real shift, if I'm honest, yeah, it probably was in college. And I remember it was my freshman year when I first had alcohol. It was the first time I didn't have to strategize my joy, that joy could be instantaneous, instant gratification. I could drink something and all that stuff I had to do and like checking in with myself. No, I could drink and I could feel normal.
Mm.
And I was thrust into a lot of environments, including football. And then I went to SMU.
Mm.
I went from a trailer park to Southern Methodist University. And one quick Google search about SMU will tell you that most people do not come definitely from no trailer park to go to school there. It's a
Hmm.
very affluent university.
Yeah.
And I remember there must have been a sense of unworthiness, but I didn't know how to name it.
Or othered. Did you feel othered?
Othered.
Yeah.
And I remember when alcohol came around in college, no, those people were coming up to me saying, "Where did you come from? Where did like join our fraternity?" But only I could associate with my worthiness then was like, "Oh, it's because I was drinking, or that I was more funny when I was drinking, or
Sure.
yeah, that." I've always felt, and this is something that I'm so grateful to be sober about, is that it's okay to be an ambivert. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of my past that was introverted, and then obviously theater was my chance to be extroverted, and then the lines began to cross. I was becoming quote unquote popular,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to maintain that.
This is such a common thing in people's clear life journeys. And I have an endless fascination with this. There's something about the experience of drinking alcohol that after even just one drink, especially early on when we're just newbies at the game, it it removes our awareness of what other people think of us. And for somebody who's been in a complicated family system or in some type of a performance role or having to show up in a certain way athletically or even professionally, socially, whatever it might be, to have the relief thinking about what the other person or people are perceiving of us by nature, ages 15 to 25 are freaking awkward. We're like
Yeah,
trying to figure it out. And we are wired as human beings to try to fit in socially and fit into the clan and not get, not get booted from the social tribe that we're trying to fit into. We go from like occasional use, whatever, we're fun, we're at the party, we think we fit in better because we've had a drink or two, maybe we do. Um, there was more to your story here. You stayed on the path of drinking for a while.
yeah, and I have to say this: I have had a history with eating disorders.
Mm.
So obviously, on a psychological level, you have that voice going, but also neurologically, they call it a nervoso. Like there's a extreme violent shift that happens to you when
Hmm.
you live with that. And I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I feel like the innocence of seeing clear was robbed of me when I became bulimic.
Hmm.
I started that in high school right before my senior year. And okay, now I'm in a dorm with somebody else. I can't get away with this demon. Me and this demon can't live with somebody else. And then, alcohol helped hide or helped you link up with people that were living that same life. And so you had a team to help you with that. And I think that by team, I mean like I met other people that were bulimic that gave you advice about how to live like that. And
Hmm.
the nervousness of that, alcohol helped with that. I often question um what the original disease is.
Yeah.
You know, I think my nerves were so shot, like shaking. Even when I got on stage, like I would shake, just because I believe there was neurological damage done with bulimia. And then I had ADHD my whole life. By 18, I started Adderall, and I was like, "Oh, I need more Adderall. That
Hmm.
will push my appetite down." And but then
Kill three
I
birds with one stone. I mean,
boom.
why not?
And then so now we got alcohol that can keep those nerves down, that because it's like wiry, and that version of me that was so easy to access, whether I was drinking or not, came harder to access with the Adderall.
Yeah.
So then the drinking kind of balanced it out. So now I think that delicate balance brought us to I where I think I needed alcohol to calm down.
Yeah. And I'll share. I want to first of all acknowledge you for being honest part of your path, because eating disorders are really common underlying concern for people who have habitual or addictive dimming behaviors. I've actually met with and spoken with a number of people who, after a year or two of living alcohol free, they realize what their core issue is actually more of a control issue. And they had an inner kind of inner, I don't want to call it an affliction, but an inner tendency to drive themselves to the edge and get a thrill out of being on that edge, a little bit like what you're describing of how precarious it was to be trying to conceal bulimia. And then the alcohol is sort of a way to self-medicate some of the enduring agita and tension that comes from redlining with an eating disorder so frequently. And so part of the beauty of a journey of clear life, it's not about quitting alcohol. This is not about quitting alcohol. Anyone listening to this right now think that this whole journey into clarity and finding your true calling and purpose and service and learning how to spend your time and all this majesty, alcohol is just one puzzle piece. It's usually one of the last symptoms or signs.
Say that again. My goodness. Amen, girl.
And so when we start looking at drinking that way, and you're already doing this and reflecting, you're a year in, you're reflecting on how alcohol kind of came as part of a storm, right? It wasn't this one thing. It was a piece of a complicated puzzle of circumstances. That's a clue that there's underlying stuff. We're actually trying to find relief. It's a salve for our suffering in some way. And if we peel back the salve and we can examine with compassion the underlying suffering, that's when the healing happens. That's when you really get to the magic. And I've heard you talk about how you thought the magic in life was lost. Like you lost touch with magic. You exude magic now. What? Like
I receive it.
I want to hear about that rediscovery, that acquaintance. And maybe to get there, we don't need to hear all of the, everybody's journey is its own unique path, but there must have been a moment sometime in the last few years, maybe one like some of our listeners are having now in life, where something didn't feel right. Something felt like it needed to change. These are the gems of these stories. I would love for you to share with us, what was your own experience of recognizing something needed to shift that brought you back to this magic?
So I was putting on the costume by drinking and Adderall and bulimia, whatever it was, to create a costume that was, this costume says I am worthy. Like I will get the job, I will have the relationship. And then all these things, the costume kept unraveling. Like the costume kept falling apart. And I tried to put on more and more and more. And before I knew it, I was drowning in pieces, accessories, and just ideas that weren't necessarily true to who I was. And the more quote unquote successful I became, the more things worked for me, the more things weren't working for me. So I kept drinking more. Honestly, I didn't know what a boundary was for myself. I didn't know how to do them for my job, for my relationships, for my family. I didn't know how to do that. I still am praying for answers around that. And with that, I was someone else.
Yeah.
I was still myself, but I was a representative of myself. And when it was time to sit back and just be with myself, there was no magic. And my whole life, I felt like I was riding a rainbow.
Wow.
I was always always, no matter my circumstances, I was always happy, and my life felt like a Disney movie. But even when everything around me, with the costume on, with the set and the backdrop of a Disney life, I wasn't feeling, I felt exhausted.
Yeah.
That's the manifestation on the physical level. Then I literally started to expand. My stomach looked pregnant. Like I was throwing up blood.
Oh,
I did not know how to stop working or teaching or showing up because we don't do that. I was always there before everyone else before I could be there for myself. Um, and
mm,
this is a selfish, I would say this is a selfish disease. The reason I was there for everyone else is so that I felt that I wasn't abandoned or left behind or I could still be loved, but I never felt love because they were loving the character I had to be every day.
yeah. That's a very hard place to be in. And everybody around you probably thought you were doing great.
Oh yeah, nobody, no one that I could think of, and they don't mean any harm. I want to say that no one wanted me to stop drinking. No one thought I
Um,
had a real problem.
yeah. This is such a common experience, Mel, that we get to this place in life where we are spinning all of the plates and everything looks great. And we're showing up and we're fun and we're managing to get through the days, whatever they are, career, family, friends, whatever it is. Magnificent creator, author, performer, artist. And something inside is saying, enough. Like, I'm going to break. And it sounds like your body started speaking up for you because your brain and your heart were on autopilot.
Yeah. Sorry.
So feel you right now. So beautiful.
It just always felt like deep sea diving and always promising myself like every drink of alcohol was like a drink of more like submergence. Like every sip was created outside of me, and I just had to go deeper and deeper. And at some point, I felt like I was so deep that I thought I'd never breathe again. And to draw a sober breath like every day is, I wish people understood. Like it's like being underwater, drowning, and every day, and people like ask, I'm sorry,
No,
like you don't think about drinking anymore. I was like, do you ever think about drowning? Like you don't want to
yeah.
drown. So like the science of whatever happens down in the depths of the ocean, the deeper you go, the less obviously the less light it is, but the chances of you getting back to the surface become increasingly less. But I just didn't think that I would have the opportunity, ability to reach the surface again.
Yeah.
So every breath you get to draw as well, I'm sure you know, I know that you know, is like, oh my God, I can, the ability to breathe.
And it's its own miracle. It's its own gift. I mean, we are here right now, you and me. You're gonna make me cry too. You and me are here having this conversation because we got out of the depths. And people around us didn't even know we were we were really suffocating. And I just want to acknowledge you for doing it. You, like myself and many others, I mean, surrounded by supportive people and circumstances of what was really a deadly habit. And it's beautiful that you're here.
Thank you. It's beautiful that you are here for reflection, for
Mm,
articulation, that you're
mm,
here for. I mean, some of this I haven't looked at since some of this I have not looked at until I'm
Yeah.
speaking it right here, right now. Um, Another thing is that only people that have lived this know how unwilling, how imprisoned, how you don't have any choice at some point. To this day, I am very surprised at how. I mean, we live here in San Francisco where you see addicts all the time, but I'm surprised at how little support that there is for people like us. Because no one wants to be
Yeah.
possessed by a demon. If I could describe my experience for the last 10 years, is that is one word: possession.
Hmm.
Possession.
How did you wriggle out of that grip? Well,
Sorry.
I'm right here with you.
I think there is a sacred part of us. We all make mistakes. I made so many mistakes in sobriety and out of sobriety. Like, but there's always like a sacredness, a spirit that we all have. And if we are lucky enough, we will come across people and things or read a book or hear a podcast that will breathe life into that voice, no matter how subdued or that voice was underneath all that, the crushing weight of the ocean of alcohol. Like that voice was underneath there. And at my worst, I could still hear like a muffled sound. Like, and again, this is why I believe I don't want to promote anything, religion or whatever, but because of my mother's faith and the type of faith that I believe, here we go, just come with me, that she heard from her great grandma. Um, my mother had someone raise her name Mama. She was her great grandma, and she was a house slave. So um, she had a little less trauma to deal with because she was in the
Wow.
house. And my mom, she was the one out of the five siblings that, went off and did this and did that. And so I think that faith that her grandma put in her, she put in me in whatever capacity. Again, affirmations and prayer, and I don't care what you call it, but there's a program that you can develop or you can be installed with. Some of us have to develop it, some of us get it pre-installed. But I wriggled my way out because I saw what religion, faith did to my mom. I still don't completely understand Christianity, but like my mom would call on power outside of herself. Jesus Christ. She would call on something outside of her to help her. And I start calling on power, any and every God that would listen. It's 10 minutes to go on stage. It's 5 minutes to go on to teach. And I'm throwing up blood or can't hold my bowels because I'm so sick. But I call on this power to help me just make it through. Now I had to start answering or asking the question, can this same power that got me, because by all accounts, I was working when I wasn't supposed to be working. By all accounts, I was showing up when I couldn't physically show up. And if that power could somehow activate, because it was only spirit, it wasn't physical, that got me up. I begged something outside of me, please take this possession away from me. For me, I began my sober journey with AA. But even with AA, I went to many meetings and I was like, this is not for me. But one of my clients, he had this thing where I could tell he's been through hell and back, but it made him stronger versus made him unkind or bitter.
You emanate that, Kamelle. I got to tell you, you're doing it right now, actually. One thing that I've heard you say, which is so beautiful, is this notion of living in fuchsia. Tell us what that. I mean, it's majestic because when I think about you, I actually think of I think of blazing color and light. I think of power and embodiment. I think of courage and fearlessness. And I've only known you on this side of your path. And I imagine that that same fire was with you even in the depths of the darkest, heaviest ocean. But, you know, being clear or in recovery or sober, whatever language we need to use, yeah, it's freaking heavy sometimes. You got to look at the stuff that you didn't want to look at all those years. You were just pouring a little sauce on top to make it taste better. But there's a lot of freaking amazing beauty too. And that's what I see and feel in you. And I'm really grateful that you've had the courage and you felt comfortable enough to share some of the shadows of your path to this moment. But I also just want to honor your light.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that little voice that I heard when I didn't want to live anymore, it was a voice saying, "Oh no, 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 no." It was like the spirit of the most highest power, whatever goodness is, was in me saying, "Come on now,
Mm-hmm.
what are you gonna do?" And I swear, about uh, 3 months into completely stepping away from alcohol, I was like, I'm sure you may have thought the same thing when you thought like, my life is gonna suck now, or things are gonna be so different and weird. I'm gonna be handicapped. When it's quite the opposite. Like you almost have, if someone is listening to this, if you hear anything at all, then not only can you save yourself, you can initiate a perspective on life that you could not even imagine seeing through. When I say living in fuchsia, it's almost like I was seeing life through rose-colored glasses. I had no idea about the pink cloud that people talk about when they talk about sobriety. When I said I'm living in fuchsia, but everything, literally, everything had not a silver lining, it had a fuchsia
Mm,
lining. It was lined in something so special, and the want to live is born out of
yeah.
the excitement that you were down millions of miles under the pressure of hypothetical
Yeah.
gallons of wine, Chardonnay,
Sure.
and that you can that that you get to experience life again and get to see life. You get to. I always said that I wanted my life back. I wanted my life back, and when I started this whole campaign, living in fuchsia, nope. I was able to do it in Mexico with a couple spin studios and things like that where everyone wore pink, but this was almost like a a delusional thing for myself. Like, I'm living in fuchsia, like I'm doing it online. I don't care who is involved. Like, I want to just scream out loud. I'm living
Yeah.
in living color and a beautiful pink, bright color. And I thought I was gonna be
Amazing.
dead.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what a gift that you had this kind of inner wordless, shapeless guidance. If you could go back to those really tough days or those kind of in between days, let's also just call it out. Like, yeah, it's dark and it's hard when you're using a lot, but it's also kind of functional and day to day. And you can kind of make it happen. So it's only on this
Yeah.
side we look back and realize how messed up it was. When we're in it, we're a little bit like, well, this is sort of everyone else is in it too. So what's the big deal? We can be really good at surrounding ourselves with other people who are in the same ocean with us. And we all look around each other like, we're
So
fine,
true.
right? You're
So
fine. I'm
true.
fine.
So
We're good.
true.
Um, what would you say to that you if you could just rewind the tape call it 4 or 5, 6 years, and you could just give yourself a message, what are you going to tell yourself?
I'm gonna tell you two things. I'm gonna tell you what I initially wanted to say. I'm gonna tell you what I would say now that I'm living,
Yeah.
like living life, is that if I could go back, I would be like, now what the hell are you doing? Because also, what a waste of time, energy, resources, money, like to just be numb. Like it's a waste. I wish I could explain that to people who are not, because again, like you said, it's not necessarily about the alcohol. It's about whatever you're doing
Yeah.
to not be clear. And I wish I could tell people and not sound like a uncle or auntie, like, baby, you don't want to waste your time. But honey, child, I am so grateful that at 36 that I woke up. But if I could go back, I would tell my youngest, like, the same Sunday, the Sunday fun day brunch thing, it's the same in your memory. The 20 times you do it for that year, it's the
Yeah.
same. You wasted time. But that's what I selfishly would say. But in service of what's true and what you have to earn your bones in life to get, because there is no this, there is no you without
Yeah.
what you had to go through. So I would just simply say, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Find people, stay close to people that make you want to hold on.
Beautiful.
This is what I tell my clients. I'm like, after all this time, me riding bikes, ain't shit about this easy. But I've realized it's just like life. It does not, this is a corny cliche saying, but it does not get easier. You become stronger. And just like your muscles breaking down, they have to literally break down in order to grow and become bigger. They have to. There's no other way to get bigger
Mm-hmm.
muscles. You, you gotta break down.
A beautiful thing. I want to acknowledge you for being open about your experiences. I know you're a year and a month or so into your own clear path. You're navigating as you go and doing this real work and understanding your life story while also really generously weaving it into your teaching, your performances, what you're doing online. You're offering a really fresh and important perspective for people who have that little, feeling or that little voice inside. You were able to listen to it and get over to where you are today. And I see you using your platform very generously to help people discover some of what you're real time discovering right now, every day, without having figured it all out, by the way, which is awesome.
I'll say that.
Like they got to be super quiet about the choice to live clear in the beginning because they're not sure if it's going to last, right? And you don't want to deal with all the shame and regret of moving backwards or whatnot. And then they realize how complex it is to live clear. And so they got to make sure they have all their talking points nailed and their resources figured out and how they're going to respond to certain uncomfortable questions. You're just courageously doing it real time. I believe it's the performer in you who's like, we're going to just figure this out.
I know to this day, well, first of all, thank you so much for that. I consider that a very high compliment because I get nervous sometimes too, but I've lived my life out loud almost my entire life. And I think people have seen me win so many times. I'm like, you might not consider this a victory. This is my reality. I have so much that I'm trying to figure out and so many things that I'm trying to rectify in my life. When you wake up, you're waking up to things that you were asleep to. So there are a lot of things that I am trying to figure out, but I believe in sharing. I also know that there are people like me that quite literally for my demographic, but also spiritually that I didn't see in me.
Yeah.
Like when I said hold on earlier, I'm hoping that I can provide some type of something that somebody can hold on to, because I think when I first sat down and talked to someone who helped me with AA, they were like, promise me that you'll give this back to someone. And at the time I was so sick, I was like, what does that mean?
Mm,
As I became better, I was like, I have a duty, whether it's about alcohol or whatever it is, I have a duty to one, let people know that there are people that never would have known that I was sick if I didn't come out online about it.
hmm.
There are people still to this day. I have friends that have admitted to me, they're like, oh, we're waiting for you to drink again. They're waiting for me
Oh
to
yeah,
drink
we all do. They're it's part of the jam.
again. um, I think the more I can stand in my truth, the more I can own my truth. And like I said, my mom always taught me just tell the truth. Like,
Yeah.
just
And live it. I mean, you're living it. This one of the
live it.
beautiful things is that I think, look, and I'll be honest, even in my first 6 months of not drinking, I didn't know if I was going to keep at it. I started with a 30-day break, and then it was 60 days and 90 days. And here we are in year 7. Whoops. Like, how'd that happen? But I remember in the first 60, 90 days, somebody telling me, you might just want to surround yourself with a new life. You might be on the way to creating a new life that you don't want to escape from. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, my friends are fun. Like, we we are fun. We party, we go out, we dress up, we do theme stuff. Like, we're fun. And alcohol is part of that fun. And, after a while, it just became evident that the people who are not dimming are not boring or not interesting. They're actually just freaking majestic expressions in a more full, complete, clear, embodied way, maybe than they were before they paused. And I think that you're
Yeah.
being a living example of just kicking ass on this side of it and celebrating and embracing and loving your life. That in and of itself is really inspiring to people. You don't have to lock yourself at home and, live on documentaries and Diet Coke for the rest of your life. You like live out loud. You're doing it better, bigger.
And when I first started living clear, I want to be like, I want a reality show. I want people to see. I'm like, oh my God, no, I want privacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, but I do want people to see that not much has changed except the fact that I am healthy and can draw a sober breath in terms of my personality. If anything, my personality has
Yeah.
blossomed. I feel more comfortable being myself, but also, like, I went to Puerto Vallarta with 12 other sober boys, and everywhere we went, everyone was like, whoa, like, who are y'all? Like, what are y'all on? Like, we're
Yeah.
like, we're just like living.
Oh,
And I never, ever. That trip, that was in September. That was a good 9, 10 months
mhm.
in, 8, 9 months in. But I wouldn't think I was gonna be having that much fun that early in
Yeah.
sobriety. To have like no anxiety, walking up to boys or whatever or
Oh,
dancing.
yeah.
I wish people knew. Even if they want to take a year off or wanted to I'm like, you're not gonna suffer. You're
Mm-mm.
gonna.
It's not a loss. It's a gain. It's a
Oh my
gain.
God.
Oh, I so feel you. So how do people find you? How do they follow you
Okay.
on the digital world or in the analog world? How do we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Kamelle, Kamelle, Mills, Mills. At Kamelle Mills on Instagram. That's usually where I try to share what I'm doing. I'm trying to pace myself and grow in other ways, but right now I'm just sharing my inspiration
Mm-hmm.
there. I have a company called NBS. In my class, I start class by saying there's no talking, there's no cell phones, and there's no bullshit.
Yeah.
And by no bullshit, I mean, like, just have fun and be yourself and let it all hang
Mm-hmm.
out. And I use that phrase. People is saying it when they see me on the streets. It's like, no, that's the no. Before people knew my name, they called me the no bullshit guy. So I made it into a word from the acronym NBS. I turned a
Oh,
word
yeah.
into
Love
ENBEYES.
it.
So there's more positive because no and bullshit. My mom's a Southern lady. She's tired of me cussing
Yeah,
too.
I hear you.
But it's like my production company in terms of like producing ideas,
Cool.
and it's in its infancy, but I'm just putting myself out there and figuring out like how do I where can I literally push positive, inspiring
Yeah.
content?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you were doing an awful lot and impacting a lot of lives in a really powerful way, even when you were under the depths of the ocean. So over
Ah,
here, I cannot wait to witness your ongoing unfolding journey without all of that extra kind of weight and murkiness and difficulty, because you're clearly ablaze, my friend. And we're so lucky to have you here. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
thank you so much, Cecily. Thank you.
Beautiful. Deep bow.
Deep bow.
Kamelle Mills is a renowned coach, speaker, and writer. He received his BFA in theater with an emphasis in playwriting at Southern Methodist University in Texas. His theatrical resume spans musical theater, one-man shows, and a myriad of experimental performance art. In the fitness arena, Kamelle is senior instructor at SoulCycle, a trainer at Barry's Boot Camp, a private coach, and a host of corporate, community, and charity wellness events. You've been listening to Undimmed. I'm Cecily Mack. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're inspired, we really appreciate a rating. It really helps others find us. Undimmed is part of a larger movement called Clear Life. It's an exploration of what it means to live clear without dimmers that can interfere with our intentional and present way of being. It's really about tuning into our truest selves. To learn more about Clear Life, you can go to my website, cecilymack.com, that's CECILYMAK, or subscribe to my Substack, also under my name. Undimmed is produced by Joanne Jennings. Mateo Schimpf mixed and mastered the show, and the great Laura and Sarah composed and recorded our music. Thank you for joining us. Be well.